Welcome to OzRacingWrap News for the 17th of August 2010. I'm Shaun Garrity. We'll head off stateside to kick off the bulletin tonight, where Marcus Ambrose raced in the Sprint Cup Series at Michigan. It's a track where Marcus has posted some good results in the past, and he hoped to post another good result this weekend. Qualifying didn't quite go to plan, with Marcus ending up qualifying 37th, but the race went much better and he ended up recording a 15th in the final standings. They did roll the dice a little bit at the last pit stop, changing only 2 tyres, as can happen in NASCAR. Marcus did comment after the race that worked really well early, but late in the race, the worn other tyres just slowed the car down and he just wasn't able to push on for what he thought otherwise was a car that had the pace for the top 10 in the race. So a good result for Marcus, backing up from a very good weekend last weekend as well for him in that series. And back in Australia, though, the main event this weekend was the Shannon Nationals that went to the new look Morgan Park Raceway. The track hadn't been used for any racing since its redevelopment, so this was the kick-off of the new look circuit, and the fans turned up in really good numbers over the weekend, and some good racing provided across the series there, as is the case normally with the Shannon's Nationals. Drivers were impressed with the changes after they had the drive on Friday. They all commented that they were quite happy and enjoyed the changes, and the feedback was really good there, so congratulations to the car club. It was quite a big redevelopment for the club, and they appear to have done a really good job. But it was another dominating weekend on the track for Matt Kingsley in the Porsche GT3 Cup Championship. He took his 9th win in a row in the series, winning both events over the weekend, and he has since non-solid start up at Bathurst, where he was a non-finisher, just really not looked back in the series since then, and he's been consistent throughout, and it's really hard to just see him losing at the moment, such as his dominance. Meanwhile, in the F3, there was a change in the championship lead there. Ben Barker took both wins this weekend. He jumps ahead of Tom Tweedy in the standings. Ben, after a slowish start to the season, has come on quite strong now with that championship lead grabbed, and he looks like the driver to beat from here on in, and after a really solid start, Mitch Evans just hasn't quite grabbed that form back. So he leads after those 2 wins. James Sierra, meanwhile, won the Kerrick Sports Sedan category over the course of the weekend. He dominated in that series as well, and a solid weekend for him. Warren McLevin won the Rock Press Australian Supercarts series. That was on cantback from Darren Hossack, so quite a close battle between those two over the weekend, with a cantback needed to separate them to get the final honours. And meanwhile, in the Australian Manufacturers Championship, Stuart Costera won both of the 1-hour races in that series in his Evo, continuing his solid form this year. But there was a shout out there for Jake Camilleri in the Mazda 3 MPS, who took 2nd outright and 3rd outright, and he had a very good weekend and really drove the socks off that little Mazda, so great result for Jake and the crew there. It's off-season at the moment, really, for the V8 supercars. It's the break between the Enduros, and Phillip Island will be next up. And putting that break to good use have been the Kelly brothers. They've taken the chance to head over to the States on the extended break, and they started off by visiting the home of the sponsor, Jack Daniels. They went down to Tennessee and visited the head office there and had a look around and learned a little bit more about the product, I'm sure, and probably sampled some as well. They then took the chance to head up to Watkins Glen last weekend to catch up with Marcus Ambrose and the NASCAR series. Both really impressed with NASCAR and what they saw, including the fans camping out and just the merchandising that they saw around the place and the cars. And Todd Kelly did indicate he'd like to have a go at NASCAR on a road course at some stage, but he'd like to go back over perhaps at nationwide level and have a go, and feels that he also commented that the management of the team now is a little bit more settled at Kelly Racing in their 2nd season, and that perhaps down the track with things settled, that might provide an opportunity in a break such as this to try and pop over and get a drive in. Rick impressed, but didn't indicate he was looking to go over and drive in NASCAR. And the boys concluded with a trip down to Yankee Stadium, the new Yankee Stadium, where they caught up with one of the great rivalries in US sport, the New York Yankees versus the Boston Red Sox, and they got to catch up with some of the Yankees and go out on the field, and from all reports had a great time at that game. So putting that break to really good use there. Meanwhile, the Bathurst 12-hour for next year, the Armour All Bathurst 12-hour, Bathurst Regional Councillor Warren Obban headed over to Malaysia recently to the Sepang circuit for the endurance race there, both to promote the event and learn about how they run theirs, how they promote it, and how they get the entry list in. Trip immediately paid off with an entry signing up on the spot, and quite a few others expressing interest in coming down to the mountain for the 12-hour next year. Clearly the new look rules and categories there having a great effect on that event, and it looks like the 12-hour will be even bigger next year. So that's a great thing, and that was a great race this year, of course. One of the best races at the mountain in a long time in any series, I'd say. This year we had a bit of everything, including that memorable fallen tree. So looks like 2011 to be even bigger. And just looking ahead a little bit, we've had David Brabham will be heading off to Road America next weekend with Patron Highcroft. He'll be looking to keep a perfect record at that track. He hasn't lost a class win since he started racing there a few years ago, so looking to keep up the perfect win. And in a little bit of late breaking news, it was confirmed today that Helio Castroneves will be driving on the Gold Coast in the 600 in October. He'll replace Heinz Harold Frentzen, who retired from all racing on the weekend, so they needed a replacement driver. And when they first asked Helio to drive, he had some commitments that he wasn't able to come on down. Things have changed, so when he was asked again, he jumped at the chance, being a long-time lover of the Gold Coast and the event down there. So great to see Helio coming down. He's clearly a great superstar of motorsport and a great addition. He'll drive with Tim Slade in the Wilson Security car at the event. So that's all for this week. We hope you enjoyed yet another Oz Racing Wrap news update. We'll keep developing these as we go along. You'll see we've tried to add some new look titles this weekend. We've got plans for other things over the coming weeks. And in the meantime, if there's something you'd like to see us discuss, just drop us a line at podcast@OzRacingWrap.com.au. And don't forget, you can keep up with your Australian motorsport news at OzRacingWrap.com.au.